Xenos is a young talented healer in the kingdom of Herzith, a nation whose history was heavily shaped by healers. The Royal Hospital of Herzith is famous throughout the world for its talented healers who make the world a better place. But Xenos is not like the other healers who are properly trained and have a license. He is a self-trained healer operating in the slums without a license. He lives in a big rundown house along with his elf servant Lily, and heals anyone who can pay his fee without any questions. He has another housemate, a MILF ghost named Carmilla, who just floats around the house doing nothing. On one usual day, after treating all the patients who visit him, Xenos goes on a house visit for a patient who can pay him more, and Lily starts cooking dinner. Soon after he leaves, a whole multi-species lineup of his simps come to the clinic, hoping to spend some time with him. They include the lizard girl Zofia, the dumb furry Linga, and the dark elf muscle mommy Loev. The girls begin competing over the right to see Xenos first, and talk how they want him to examine their bodies thoroughly, but Lily angrily interrupts them because she doesn't like anyone thirsting after him. After she is done calming the three girls, Lily invites them to stay over for dinner, saying that they are going to eat together once Xenos returns. However, once she steps out of the room to do laundry, the furry and the muscle mommy can't hold back their urge to taste the delicious stew before dinner. Just one sip of the dish makes them crave for more, and even the lizard girl can't hold back for very long. The three of them finish the stew in record time, but then they realize that they are in serious trouble now. As they wonder how are they going to explain it, Lily returns inside, and she is horrified when she learns that these dumb ate their entire dinner. They start blaming each other for finishing the food, but then Carmilla arrives there, furious because she was really excited about dinner tonight. The three girls are dead scared of her, and they volunteer to help Lily in cooking a second batch. Lily sadly informs them that they don't have any more ingredients, so they decide to bring the best quality ingredients they can find for her. While the girls are busy worrying about dinner, Xenos returns home after finishing his house visit. On the way, he passes by a beast girl named Till holding her stomach tightly to suppress the unbearable pain she is feeling. He stops to examine her symptoms, but just then, the beast girl's master arrives there, asking her where the hell she has been. Till tells him that she went to a doctor for her stomach ache, but since she had no money, they didn't even examine her. The arrogant bastard just sighs as he grabs her by the hair, asking if she thinks that a slave like her can get a day off just by acting that she has a stomach ache. He drags her away to do her job, and Xenos watches this drama unfold without doing anything because it is none of his business. Meanwhile, the takes Till to the local cemetery and throws her on top of a grave, releasing a ghost that enters her body without anyone noticing. The man starts telling her to do the only thing she is good at, which is finding valuables hidden inside the graves, but when she doesn't answer, he sends her rolling with a kick. She keeps holding her stomach tightly, and as her master tells her to get to work, the ghost starts taking control of her. The jerk doesn't notice it and starts heading back, telling Till that she will not get any dinner if she returns empty-handed. However, she is fully possessed by the ghost now and suddenly attacks him, slashing his guts open with her claws. The jerk realizes that he is screwed because Till is no longer obeying him, and he runs away as fast as he can with his bleeding wound. He runs into Xenos on the way and begs him to save him from his berserk slave, but Xenos replies that he has no time for arrogant jerks like him. Just then, Till arrives there and Xenos can see the dark energy surrounding her. He asks the jerk where the two of them are coming from, and he replies that they were doing some farming. Xenos doesn't believe it, but the jerk doesn't care. He asks him to take his feral slave down and promises a reward in exchange. Suddenly, Till lunges at the bastard again, and Xenos quickly saves him before tossing him to the side. The beast girl marks him as her next target and throws stones at him with full strength. Xenos easily dodges all the stones that could have left holes in his body, and the jerk thinks that he can defeat Till. However, Xenos replies that he is a healer, and killing people is usually frowned upon in his line of work. Just then, Till yeets a huge boulder towards them, and Xenos shatters it with a magic-covered fist. Till then dashes towards him with great speed, and he dodges a few attacks before letting her strike his magic barrier that sends her flying into a building. She somehow crawls out the rubble despite serious injuries, but because of that, the ghost starts losing its control over her. Xenos is finally sure about what's bothering her, but as he tries to help her, Till bites his arm. Xenos doesn't care about that, and he immediately uses his healing magic on her, treating her wounds and expelling the ghost possessing her. He purifies the ghost with his powers too, and then declares that he has done enough work for today. The rich bastard sees all this, and now he finally believes that Zenos is a skilled healer. He asks him to save him, but Zenos replies that he has already met his target for today. The man complains that he is dying and demands him to heal him right away, and Zenos tells him that it will cost him extra. The man throws his purse in front of him to cover for the expenses, but Zenos tells him that it is not enough. The man gets pissed at this and threatens to complain to the medical board about charging too much, but Zenos tells him to go ahead because he doesn't have a license and the medical board can kiss his. He then suddenly gets an idea and says that he will take the beast girl as the rest of his payment. The rich bastard immediately agrees to the deal, and Zenos doesn't waste any time in treating him. After that, he stays with the unconscious beast girl till she wakes up, and her stomach pain flares up again. She asks Zenos who is he, and he shows her the documents saying that he is her new master. He then immediately gets down to business and tells Till to strip because he needs to check something. She freaks out thinking that her new master is a pervert, but since she is a slave, she has no choice. Till removes her shirt and Zenos sees a gallstone that is causing all her pain. He begins saying some medical mumbo-jumbo like he is Dr. House, and then uses his magic to pull the gallstone out of her body. Till immediately feels better and asks Zenos how he did that, and he replies that he used magic to cut her open, pull the stone out, and then patch her back just within a second. Till can't believe that this is even possible, but Zenos likes to be humble at times and says that any healer could have done that. Till can only thank him for curing her, but Zenos says that he doesn't want her thanks. Instead, he wants her to pay back the amount she cost him. Till is willing to do anything for him, starting with a Gluck Gluck 3000, but Zenos is no beta simp, and he tells her to find a special herb for him. Till is disappointed, but she still finds the special herb for him, and Zenos tells her that she has fully repaid her price now. She doesn't understand if he is joking or telling the truth, so Zenos tells her that he would not have found these herbs without her, so she really has paid him back for buying her, and now she is free to go wherever she wants. Till can't believe this, but Zenos tears the slave contract, telling her that she owns her life now. She gets emotional and thanks him for helping her, and Zenos asks her to come to his clinic if she ever needs a healer, but also warns her that his fee is a bit high. With that, he returns home just in time for his three simps to return with the ingredients for their dinner. Zenos remembers the time when he was the member of the revered Golden Phoenix, which became one of the strongest adventure parties in the entire kingdom. One day, the leader of the party named Aston tells Zenos that they don't want a poor slum-dwelling commoner in their party anymore and gives him a gold coin as severance pay. Aston claims that Zenos is good for nothing anyways, and they are much better off without him. Zenos is confused because he is a very strong healer who has been helping the party ever since it was formed, but Aston laughs at this, claiming that he is a poor self-taught idiot who never got an official healer's license, which makes him completely useless. Zenos looks at him and claims that he thought that they were friends, but Aston laughs at his face alongside his friends, mocking Zenos, claiming that he was just a meat shield for them and nothing more. Aston tells him that now that they are the strongest party in the kingdom, they are basically celebrities, and it's not a good look to have a common slum dweller in a party filled with aristocratic nobles. Aston claims that the gold coin should be more than enough for him to go anywhere, and that he should never open his mouth about being in their party. Zenos realizes that this is basically money to keep him quiet, so he gets up and leaves the room, while thinking about what he will do with his life now. While walking aimlessly, he suddenly hears the sound of someone struggling and goes over to investigate. It turns out to be a man and a woman trying to subdue an elf slave so that they can sell her off to an ugly noble, but the slave girl tries to fight back and run away, forcing the man to shoot an arrow in her leg. He walks up and grabs her by the collar, but the elf is fiery and bites his attacker's hands, making him even more pissed. The man then grabs his dagger and stabs her in the stomach, annoying the woman, who calls him a numbskull for ruining their merchandise. Zenos watches them argue over the body of the slave girl in a puddle of blood, and he decides to quickly intervene. He offers them the gold coin in return for the slave girl, and the woman immediately accepts since the girl is as good as dead already. The duo immediately disappear in the darkness while Zenos quickly starts examining her wound. The slave girl thinks that she is already dead, but Zenos is an incredible healer and easily heals her to full health. The slave girl is utterly surprised since she didn't even feel a thing and thanks Zenos for his help. She introduces herself as Lily and immediately gets worried about the gold coin that Zenos paid for her, Xenos realizes this and tells her not to worry about that at all, as it wasn't a big deal. In reality, he wasn't too keen on holding on to the pity money from a jerk like Aston anyways. Lily asks whether Xenos is a world-famous healer, but he replies that he is a nobody who doesn't even have a healing license. He then asks where does she live, but she replies that she is hungry and homeless. Xenos decides to take her in and takes her to a small tavern, where he gets her some better clothing and some warm food. Lily eats hungrily, asking whether Xenos is not going to eat anything, to which he replies that he is not hungry, when in fact he doesn't have any more money to buy food. Just when he was thinking about how to look for a job, a lizard man enters the tavern, asking for some water. He sits down on a chair with blood dripping from his arm from what seems like a bullet hole. Xenos walks up to him and examines his wound, claiming that there is nothing to worry about as it is basically a scratch. The lizardman thinks that Xenos is retarded, but without a second word, Xenos raises his arms and chants the healing spell, which completely heals the lizard man's wound immediately. The lizard boy is shocked but happy at the same time, and immediately hands Xenos some money before leaving the tavern. Xenos is a little confused, because this is the first time he has been paid for healing someone. Lily claims that it seems pretty normal for her as healers charge a fee to heal someone. Xenos decides that he is going to live by this concept from now on and start his own clinic. One problem with that is that since he is from the slums, getting a license for a legal operation would be next to impossible, so he would probably have to be an underground healer who works illegally. Lily seems pretty happy with this decision and promises to help him all her life. Xenos doesn't really want to drag such a young girl in an illegal operation, but since he can't leave Lily like this, he decides to let her be with him for now. He takes her to an abandoned part of the town where most of the houses are destroyed and not a soul can be seen walking around. Lily asks why they are in such a bad place, and Xenos replies that they need to stay a little far away from the town center since they need to stay under the radar. He claims that he is looking for an intact house to call his home, and finally he spots one of the houses that isn't too bad. He starts inspecting the entire house, even though it seems to be in a pretty bad condition. Xenos is simply happy to have a roof above his house since for most of his life, he had to sleep out in the open while he was at his old party. Lily uses her light magic to illuminate the area and Xenos starts checking everything out when suddenly they run into a wraith who is none other than Carmilla herself. Lily hides behind Xenos thinking that this is the end, since wraiths are the strongest undead monsters who are said to have the touch of death. Carmilla smiles at seeing fresh meat being walking into her palace and decides to attack them, but Xenos calmly casts his healing magic, which causes her arms to disappear. She is shocked to see a human fight back, while Lily looks at him surprised, asking how the hell is he fighting a wraith. Xenos looks confused and claims that he doesn't see what the big deal is since he has already fought against hundreds of them. It turns out that whenever Aston wanted to be amused, he would send Xenos in the deepest dungeons where he was forced to deal with wraiths, but Xenos soon realized that they are actually weak to his healing magic. Back in the present, Xenos apologizes to Carmilla, but claims that he wants to stay here and would try not to disturb her. The wraith decides to attack again, but Xenos pushes her back easily. Carmilla is annoyed since she is the queen of wraiths and no human ever has dared challenge her before. She points her hands up and calls in a small army of wraiths to deal with Xenos, but the underground healer is too strong for them and casts high heal, which immediately kills all the lower level wraiths, leaving Carmilla alone. Xenos again apologizes for barging in like this and asks whether he could at least get a single room to run his clinic. Carmilla, realizing that this human is something different, agrees to share the space, but claims that the second floor is her private quarters before disappearing. A couple of days pass by after that, but the room soon starts looking more like a clinic as they make some final adjustments. Lily asks whether they should advertise, but Xenos claims that they don't need to do anything. Just then, the door opens and the lizard man enters again. He introduces himself as Zahn and tells Xenos that this time he brought his sister with him. The sister looks at Xenos asking whether he can deal with her arm wound. Xenos realizes that she must have been shot by a magic poison bullet, which has infected her arm completely. He claims that the arm would need to be amputated as it is already dead. The woman looks at him and asks how much would she have to pay, and Xenos quotes $100,000. Zahn is outraged by this since this is way above the market rate for a simple amputation, but the woman calms him down, claiming that Xenos is smart and knows that she is Zofia, the leader of the lizard clan. Xenos actually didn't know that, but he has heard the name before, as there are major clan leaders in the slums, one of them being Zofia, who steals from the rich and distributes to the poor. Zofia asks him to justify such a high price, and Xenos replies dryly that regenerating a new arm takes a lot of energy. This leaves her stunned as she asks what the hell does he mean by regenerating. He looks confused and claims that he will chop her arm off and get her a new one. Zofia is shocked but tells him that if he can do that, then she will pay him the money he was asking for. Soon he lays her down at the table and uses an ethereal scalpel to amputate her arm before regenerating a brand new one. Xenos is surprised to know that healers don't normally do stuff like this, while Zofia thanks him for his help, claiming that she will probably be sending more people his way to get healed. A couple days pass by when one night after tending to the patients, Xenos sits down for some tea with Carmilla and Lily, when Lily asks why are the lizard people always injured when they come to him for help. Xenos claims that there are 3 factions in the underground slums who are constantly at war. One being the lizard people, one being the orcs, and the last one being the furries. Just then he senses something and the door opens as a bunch of furries enter the room, alongside a demi-human girl who introduces herself as Linga, the leader of the furries. Xenos knows that she handles all the gambling operations and is quite a tyrant, so he tells her that they are closed for the day, but if it's an emergency then he can have a look. Linga laughs and claims that no matter how many times they beat the lizard people, they always keep popping back up completely healed, and then she learned that Xenos is the one healing them up. With that, she grabs a big axe and starts walking towards him, claiming that she will kill him so he can't help the lizard people anymore. With that she lunges at him, but the shield around him shatters the axe. All the furries start attacking him, but it has no effect on him, so they start trashing his place. He tries to stop them, but they don't listen when suddenly Carmilla appears angry at the destruction of her house. All the furries piss their pants seeing a wraith angry at them, but before she could unalive them, Xenos stops her, claiming that this clinic is for saving lives and not for taking them. Carmilla decides to leave him alone and moves back up, while Linga immediately drops to the floor asking for forgiveness, as a man who can deal with a wraith can delete all the furries at once. Xenos tells them not to worry about that, as he realizes that he has probably got another stream of customers for his clinic. His clinic has been booming for a while now, as he constantly gets patients from the lizard as well as the furry faction. Apart from them, now one of the orcs has also arrived, and he tells Xenos that their leader, the great Lady Lo, is sick, and he wants him to look at her. Xenos tells him to bring the lady to the clinic, but the orc refuses, claiming that Lady Lo can't even move right now, and the furries and the lizard men are constantly around, bringing gifts and building structures. Lady Lo can't take the risk of coming to a place surrounded by so many enemies. Xenos breathes an exhausted sigh and decides to follow the orc to their den. He walks through dark caves before arriving at an opening where he finds a beautiful muscle mommy sitting on a throne, surrounded by a bunch of orcs. He introduces herself, but Lo claims that she already knows who he is, since both the lizard people and the furries can't stop raving about how much of a sigma the new underground healer is. Xenos feels annoyed by this, since he doesn't want much publicity for his clinic, as it might lead to trouble with the authorities since he doesn't have any license. He asks what her problem is, and she instead challenges him to find the problem himself. Xenos calmly walks up to her and scans her entire body for any external injury, but finds none. After that, he decides to check her for any internal injuries, and soon realizes that there is a lump inside her stomach, which is not a baby, but a monostone. He looks at her and asks about it, when she tells him that it's an explosive stone that she ended up swallowing. Xenos asks whether someone tried to poison her, but she claims that it's nothing like that, and she just accidentally swallowed it while eating rice balls. Xenos turns around and tells her to give it some time as she will soon herself, but Lo stops him, claiming that she accidentally ended up chewing it a bit, which is making the stone very volatile, and if she moves even a little, it might explode. The orcs immediately surround her, claiming that they will die with her but not leave her side. Xenos doesn't really care for this melodrama and wants to leave, but Lo claims that she has a huge amount of treasure hidden inside one of the chests, and she wants him to have it. He is a little confused by this and thinks that she is joking, but Lo immediately throws him a golden key, telling him that he can open the treasure with that. Xenos asks why is she doing that, and Lo claims that she has heard that Xenos always asks for a fair price, but for children he doesn't take a single penny. Lo really liked that about him, and wants him to continue the good work that he has been doing. Zeno sighs and decides to finally deal with the issue as he turns back and walks up to her, taking out his magical scalpel and slices her stomach open. The orcs are horrified and try to attack him, but before they could even surround him, he takes out the mana stone and heals her stomach back up. She is shocked by this as she has never seen this happen before, but immediately warns Xenos that she should throw it away before it explodes. Xenos, however, doesn't even flinch and grabs the stone in between his fists when it explodes violently. After the dust settles, Lo is utterly bamboozled to see that there isn't even a scratch on Xenos, who dusts himself off before throwing the key back at Lo and leaving. Lo stops him and asks why did he heal her when he could have simply had all the money for himself, but Xenos claims that he takes a fair price, and what she was giving him was too much for a simple operation. After that day, the leaders of all the three factions start regularly visiting him, even when they had no reason to. Xenos just chalks it up to them being completely jobless, but Lily suspects them of liking Xenos, which is confirmed by Carmilla, who claims that all three of the leaders are totally lovesick for him, and will soon wage war over each other for him. Xenos ignores it, claiming that he is just an unremarkable healer and nothing else, but Carmilla's word turn out to be true when one day, all three of the faction leaders visit him one by one, bringing gifts and food, while claiming that they are going to wage a war the next day. The next morning, all three of the factions meet at the battlefield with their men, chatting with each other as they get ready to finally decide who is the undisputed king of the underworld. Before the fight could start though, Xenos and Lily arrive in the stadium, but instead of stopping the fight, the underground doctor tells them to get it all out of their system once and for all. With that affirmation, Zofia tries to draw first blood by taking out her daggers and attacking Linga, but the furry is fast and manages to dodge the attack. The orc decides to join in the action and jumps on Zofia, but she dodges the attack and moves back. This is when all hell breaks loose as all the factions start slashing and punching each other in mortal combat, while the leaders of each faction engage deadly blows with each other with the intention to kill. Lily seems very disturbed by all this, but soon things take a weird turn as they keep fighting the entire day, but for some reason nobody dies or gives up and all their injury keep healing magically. Finally, the leaders realize that Xenos is healing all of them at once, and he replies that he doesn't care how long they keep fighting, but they are his patients, so he will keep healing them. At this point, the leaders start laughing as they realize how stupid actually is. They decide to form a truce and rule the underworld together in peace. Lily seems really happy with this, while Xenos claims that he is going to charge them a lot of money as healing so many people at once is a very hard job. A couple days pass by when Zofia and her brother visit Xenos' clinic once again to get healed. Both Linga and Lo are also there just chilling, while Xenos asks Zofia, how did she get hurt this time? Zofia claims that she is a thief who selects really rich nobles and steals from them before distributing the wealth amongst the poor locals in the slums, and yesterday while she was doing that she ended up having a scrap with the royal guards and got injured. Her brother claims that his case was different as a mad woman named the Iron Rose caught him in the open and started blasting at him like a true American. Carmilla smiles and tells Xenos that she feels like this Iron Rose might pay him a visit soon since he has managed to unite the three warring factions for the first time in years, and the nobles might find it a threat. Xenos claims that he doesn't want to deal with any of that and sits down to eat the feast that Lily has prepared for all of them. Carmilla's words turn out to be true, as the woman known as the Iron Rose has already entered the slums and is shocked to see peace as the furries play cards with the lizard people while the orcs and the furries joke and laugh. She spots one of the lizard people sitting quietly and drinking some beer, so she approaches him, claiming that it's been a while since she has last visited the slums and things have seemed to change a lot. The lizard man looks at her and claims that now that they all know each other, they have realized that they are all the same, so there is no reason to fight. The woman asks him who the mediator was that stopped the war, but the lizard man claims that the mediator likes keeping a low profile, so he wouldn't say the name. At this, the mad woman grabs his collar and shoves his gun in his stomach, threatening to shoot him, but he still refuses to give Xenos up and manages to shout for help. Thankfully, Zofia and her brother were walking nearby, which forces the woman to run away. But she notices that Zofia's hand wounds seem to have healed already. She walks through the city and ends up stumbling upon Xenos' clinic late at night. She enters the room asking him for directions to reach the city, but the moment he tries to help, she immediately gets her gun out and shoots a smoke grenade right at him, while Lily watches in horror, wondering what will happen now. The woman says that she had been investigating a kidnapper targeting elves for some time, and she finally found him today. Lily tries to tell her that Xenos is not a kidnapper, but the refuses to hear her out, saying that adopting kids from other species is illegal without going through proper channels. Lily grows frantic at this and tells her that Xenos saved her, and the woman realizes that she jumped to conclusions. She assures Lily that she just shot a sleeping gas bullet at him, and he won't die, but she is dumbfounded when Xenos comes out of the gas cloud, perfectly fine. The woman apologizes to him for shooting him without warning, but then asks how can he be fine. Xenos replies that he just blocked her attack with normal defensive magic, and she finds that hard to believe. She claims that no one can stop her magic bullets, but it would be a different case if Xenos was a genius magician who had devoted his entire life to studying defensive magic. Xenos tells her that he is nothing like that, but the woman refuses to believe him, saying that he might want to keep a low profile, but he cannot betray Krishna, the vice commander of the Royal Knights. Both Xenos and Lily are concerned on learning the woman's true identity, and she asks them to cooperate with her on her investigation mission. Xenos immediately sends a signal to the three leaders to stay away from his house, hoping that they are smart enough to follow it. He then sits down to have a chat with Krishna, who tells him that it is the duty of all citizens to cooperate with Royal Knights, and she wants his help in arresting the person who ended the decades-long hostility between the three demihuman species. Xenos freaks out on realizing that the crazy woman is here to arrest him, but Krishna continues her rant, saying that anyone who can control the three demihuman tribes must be really strong, and she cannot let someone like that roam free because they can become a threat to the order of the city. She explains that she tried to shake the slum dwellers about his identity, and that makes her even certain that the man behind the shadows is an evil mastermind who excels at controlling people. Xenos nervously tries convincing her that the person she is looking for might just want to keep a low profile, but Krish refuses to believe him, and says that a person who can unite the three tribes can soon become a threat to the entire country. Xenos then suggests that since it is already too late at night, she should return home. He offers to show her the way to the city, but as she is getting ready to leave, Krish spots an empty bed in a corner. Xenos tells her that he was just about to throw that bed away because it is not used anymore, and she immediately tells him that she is going to use it from now on. Xenos is confused, so Krish tells him that she needs to have a base of operations near the slums so that she can find her target, and that is why she is going to stay here for the time being. She tells Xenos that he doesn't need to worry about anything because she will pay rent, and Carmilla comes down to tease him about yet another dangerous woman who barged into his life. Krish uses her authority to force Xenos to let her stay at his place, but this makes Lily quite jealous. To show Krish that she is the #1 girl of Xenos, Lily climbs on his lap and makes him pat her hair. Seeing this, Carmilla comes down in her invisible form again and teases Xenos by whispering in his ear, which freaks him out. After that, Lily keeps trying to show off how close she is to Xenos, but unfortunately Krish is too busy blowing on her tea to pay her any mind. Lily ultimately falls asleep soon, and after tucking her in bed, Xenos returns to talk with Krish. She asks him about the details of the incident where he rescued Lily from the kidnappers, but he doesn't remember much about it. Krish thinks about that for some time, and then comes to her main mission of finding the mediator. She still believes that Xenos is a genius mage who has mastered defensive magic, and she wants to know if there was someone like him who devoted his life to healing magic, would he be able to regenerate arms? Xenos asks her if that is not normal for decent healers, but Krish doesn't hear him over the sound of her own voice. She says that only a saint of very high-level healers can regenerate lost limbs, and Xenos asks her what does it matter. She tells him that she severely injured Zofia's arm in a fight earlier, but when she came to the slums yesterday, her arm was completely fine. Krish says that if it is the work of a high-level healer living in the slums, he should have considerable authority here, and he might be the mediator she is looking for. Xenos asks her what makes her so aggressive and passionate about the slums, and Krish tells him that her mother, a kind woman who came to the slums to feed the poor every day, was killed in the slums by someone who tried to steal her wedding ring. She swore that she would become a hero who would bring justice to such criminals who live in the slums, and worked hard to become the youngest vice commander of the Knights. The next day, Krish leaves to investigate the slums again, telling Xenos that she will be back by night, and in the meantime, Zofia pays him a visit. As he is treating her, Xenos keeps thinking about Krish's story, but Carmilla tells him that it is nothing unusual, and he shouldn't be so bothered by it. Just as Xenos finishes healing Zofia, Krish returns home, and the two women immediately get into a standoff. Lily tries to intervene, saying that Zofia also got lost and ended up here, but Krish refuses to believe that. She asks Zofia about the mediator who healed her, claiming that he is an evil man who is uniting the people of the slums to lead a rebellion. Zofia scoffs at her, saying that evil people are found in every section of the society, but Krish is a classist who only finds fault with slum dwellers. She tells her that the person behind the kidnapping ring she is investigating is a high-ranked noble, but the royal knights haven't even tried to investigate him despite things being so clear. Krish refuses to believe her, but Zofia calls her sense of justice fake and says that the mediator is much better person than her, who doesn't care about hierarchy or politics and just saves the people who need his help. Krish gets furious and decides to shoot her, but Xenos stands in between them, telling the knight that he will not allow her to shoot his patient. Krish asks him what the hell is he talking about, and Xenos decides to come clean with her. He tells her that he is the healer and the mediator she is searching for, but she doesn't believe him. She claims that he is an expert in defensive magic, and he can't have mastered healing magic at the same time, so he is just lying to her. However, now she is sure that even he is on the side of the demihumans and the mediator, so she decides to end all connections with him. She tells him that she will find another place to stay and work in the slums, because she cannot let her image of a perfect knight be tainted by staying with him. She leaves the clinic with that, and goes in the opposite direction of the slums. Xenos thinks that she got lost on a one-way street, but instead, Krish goes straight to the house of the noble named Calendar, whom Zofia accused of being the leader of the kidnapping ring. Krish tells Calendar that recently crime has been increasing in this region, and she is here to do a surprise check on his mansion's security. Calendar gladly allows her to check his home's security, and Krish finds nothing unusual, which makes her think that Zofia was just talking out of her earlier. However, just as she is about to go back, Krish realizes something strange about the distribution of the security guards. She figures out that there are too many guards at Calendar's place, and most of them are stationed near the rear gate. She decides to investigate it further and finds an underground prison full of kidnapping victims. She tells the children not to worry because she is here to save them, but then someone shoots her in the back. Krish turns around to see Calendar, who shot her using her own guns that were confiscated before she entered his mansion. He shoots her again, destroying her arm, and then laughs at her, saying that the famous Iron Rose has been reduced to a helpless bitch in front of him. Krish realizes that she might not be able to save anyone now, but luckily, Zofia leads Xenos to the place just in time. Calendar doesn't waste any time and shoots at him, but Xenos blocks everything easily. This freaks the fat bastard out, and he trips on thin air while trying to draw the second gun. Xenos picks it up and points it at him, and Calendar begs for mercy, telling Xenos that he should be grateful that a noble is apologizing to him. Xenos just sighs and shoots the unrecyclable piece of trash, not killing him but knocking him out for a long time. He then turns to Krish, who has accepted that death is coming for her. She asks Xenos to tell the royal knights what happened here, but he asks her to shut up because he needs to concentrate to grow back her arm. Once she is fully healed, Krish finally understands that Xenos is a healer and the mediator she was looking for. She begins considering him a true hero and says that she could never do anything to match up to him. However, Xenos tells her that she is the hero to the kids here because she was the first one to take action to save them. Krish is moved to tears on hearing this, and soon, she calls the soldiers to help her rescue the kids. Xenos tells Zofia that they should head back before someone approaches them, but Krish runs after them immediately, asking Xenos why he saved her. He coldly tells her that she hasn't paid the rent for staying over at his place for one night, and he is going to send her the invoice for that along with today's healing bills. A few days later, Xenos goes grocery shopping with Lily, but as he passes through some familiar streets, the memories of his childhood return to him. He used to be a lonely orphan in the slums until one day, an adventurer named Astan came there looking to hire him. He didn't even care what Xenos could do because he just wanted someone to run errands for him and act as his slave. Xenos told Astan that he knew some healing magic, but he just laughed at that because there was no way a poor orphan from the slums could afford that type of education. Nevertheless, he accepted Xenos into his party, and they started doing adventurous stuff together. When Astan fought monsters, Xenos stayed behind him and healed his injuries so quickly that Astan felt like he was untouchable. He felt it was all because of his own skills and Xenos was just standing behind him uselessly, so he fired him. In the present, Astan leads his party Golden Phoenix into a den of monsters, because a powerful noble has commissioned them to get some monster fur. Everyone is quite chill and a couple guys are even hungover because they are being treated like celebrities no matter where they go. They find the flame foxes as soon as they enter the cave, and Astan orders one guy to cast a defensive spell on him before he charges ahead at the monsters carelessly. The monster bites his hand, leaving it with severe burns, and Astan freaks out because he is not used to pain. In the meantime, other members of his party get attacked by the foxes, and Astan feels like he is surrounded by incompetent fools. He turns to the guy in charge of defensive magic, who can't focus his mana properly because of his hangover. Astan orders everyone to retreat, and once they exit the cave, they start blaming each other for the failure. The defense guy suggests that maybe Xenos was using healing magic on them all this time. Astan refuses to believe that because he never noticed it, but he decides to hire another healer who has the proper qualifications. A couple weeks later, Astan and his party return to the cave with a healer named Human. Unfortunately, the monsters are ready for him this time, and they immediately launch a surprise attack on his party. Astan blocks the monsters' attacks, but the wizard of his party gets hit by a fireball that burns through the defensive magic and injures him. Human immediately starts healing him, but she realizes that he needs to be admitted to a hospital. Meanwhile, Astan struggles to hit the monsters and feels exhausted quickly, and it doesn't make sense to him at all. Human tells him that they need to retreat because the wizard is going to die if they waste any more time, and Astan reluctantly gives the order. Once they are outside the cave, he lashes out at the defense guy for not doing his job properly, but Human tells him that it is not his fault. Astan focuses his attention on her and tells her to immediately heal the wizard so that they can fight again, but Human asks if he is retarded. She says that only the saint and a few top-level healers can heal such injuries instantly, and that makes Astan wonder if Xenos was actually healing them from such serious damage all the time. Soon, he returns to the city, where the noble's butler comes to tell him that he failed his mission, and he should never show his face in the city again. Astan panics and begs for another chance, blaming Xenos for the failure. The butler gives him the chance he asked for, and Astan decides to hire Xenos back, so that he can use his talents again and rise to fame. Soon, Astan and the defense guy Guile go to the slums to find Xenos, and they decide to seek the help of the 3 demi-human tribes in doing that. They first go to the Lizardman tribe, and Astan tells Zofia that he is looking for a healer named Xenos who came to the slums 2 months ago. Zofia begins laughing uncontrollably on hearing that, and remarks that Astan indeed looks dumb enough to fire someone as skilled as Xenos. The redhead gets offended and tries to draw his sword, but he backs down on realizing that he is surrounded by lizard warriors. Zofia tells him to go home because neither she nor Xenos have the time to deal with idiots like him. Astan gets furious at this, but a cold gaze from Zofia makes him realize the power difference between them, and he immediately backs out. He then goes to the Beastman tribe, and Linga also mocks him for being the idiot who fired Xenos. She tells him that she doesn't want to do business with someone like him, and before Astan can even try to intimidate her, she scares him by showing off her speed. Next, he goes to the hideout of the orcs and gets a similar response from Loev, but this time, he is smart enough to walk out without acting tough. Once outside, Astan throws a tantrum because he doesn't believe Xenos can have this type of sway in the slums. Suddenly, Guile notices Xenos walking down the street with Lily, and the two of them go to confront him. Astan acts tough, telling Xenos that it must be luck that he survived on his own for 2 months. Xenos replies that he doesn't have time to chat with him and goes on his way, but that frustrates Astan, who yells that he came here to let him rejoin the party. Xenos coldly refuses, telling Astan that no one will accept a job with no pay and horrible working conditions. The redhead feels insulted and tells him that he should be grateful that he gets to be a part of such a famous party. Xenos sighs and says that he will help his party out if they are so desperate, but this time, he is going to charge a fair amount for healing and casting defensive spells. Astan is taken aback by this and tells Xenos that he shouldn't make such demands because he doesn't have anywhere else to go. Just then, some people from the slums come there and start chatting happily with Xenos. He gets surrounded by people soon, and Astan gets confused about what is happening. Once everyone leaves, Xenos decides to go back home, and Astan begins yelling at him, reminding him that he was the one who picked him up from the streets. Xenos has had enough of his bullshit, so he simply tells him that it is too late. He begins walking away with that, and the pissed Astan decides to attack him. However, before he can even reach Xenos, he gets hit by a bullet and thrown to the side of the road. Krish calls him stupid for trying to assault someone in front of the vice commander of the royal guards, and Xenos gets surprised to see her here. He asks what is she doing in this part of the slum, and Krish replies that she was looking for him and got lost, but it all worked out in the end. While they chat, Astan gets even more perplexed because Xenos has a good connection with not only the leaders of the slums, but also the royal guard. As he gets up, Krish tells him that he is under arrest for attempted assault. Astan immediately blames it on Guile and runs away, determined to teach Xenos a lesson for ignoring him later. A few days after that, everyone assembles at Xenos' place, and they begin discussing how Astan and his lackey approached them all. The three bosses tell Xenos that they put their spies after them in case they created any trouble, but surprisingly, they vanished without a trace. Lily is relieved, thinking that they gave up on chasing Xenos, but just then Carmilla appears behind her and says that they might have gone to the underground guild, which handles all sorts of illegal requests for the right price. Lily gets scared on hearing this, but Xenos tells her that the underground guild charges a large amount of money, and Carmilla adds that if Astan was so desperate about getting him back, it means that he is going through a rough patch and money is tight. Lily finally gets relieved on hearing this, but then Zofia tells her about a strange mercenary who has been said to accept any job, even without a pay if some conditions are met. Later that night, Lily finds Xenos awake, so she prepares some tea for him and pats his head to help him relax. She falls asleep quickly after that, and once Xenos tucks her in, he finds Carmilla waiting for him outside. She encourages him to talk freely about his party, and Xenos tells her that he should have punched Astan in the face when he saw him. She then starts asking how did he get so good at healing magic, and Xenos tells her that he tried reviving a dead person when he was a child, but got badly beaten by his master because of it. Carmilla is shocked to hear that because reanimation is a taboo, and then she begins telling him how there used to be artificial life forms 300 years ago when she was still alive. She tells him all about the fearsome golems that were used by the demon army in the war against humans, and once the story is over, Xenos decides to go to bed. Suddenly, the ground shakes and Carmilla takes to the sky to see what is happening in the slums. She finds some parts of the slum on fire with a giant golem rampaging through it, and she freaks out, thinking that she jinxed the slum by mentioning golems. The giant golem ravages through the slums, destroying everything in its path as the people run away for their lives. Xenos comes there to see the golem up close, and Carmilla also comes with him. She says that it is really suspicious that an ancient weapon like this is out on the streets of a slum, and they wonder how it got here. Just then, the three gang leaders arrive there, and Xenos is glad to see that they are fine. The girls tell him that they are not hurt, but their subordinates were badly injured because of the monster's attack. They ask Xenos about the giant monster because they have never seen anything like that before, and he tells them that it is an artificial life form created using magic technology that was thought to be extinct. Loev says that one of her orcs reported that the golem came from deep within the slums, and Xenos wonders if the underground guild is behind it. He decides that healing the injured people comes first, and tells the three girls to gather all the wounded people in one place. He swears that whoever did this will pay the price for this, but the man who sent the golem is watching its performance from a distance. The assassin called Guide is the one behind the attack. He took the job after Astan approached him to get revenge, and he didn't even charge him much because he was more interested in Astan's intention than his money. When Guide learned that Astan just wanted to take out his frustration on Xenos and everyone close to him, he just laughed but accepted the deal because it was enough to satisfy his twisted nature. He then showed Astan a golem core which he was developing, and told him that it would be enough to defeat Xenos completely. Right now, Guide watches the golem destroying the slums and thinks that it is destructive enough, but it is not as fast as he wanted. He begins to wonder how Xenos will feel when the people close to him start dying one by one, but Xenos is not going to let that happen. As the three demi-human gangs gather all the injured people in one place, he uses a powerful ranged healing spell, instantly making them all better. He then begins treating the minor injuries, but he is pissed the entire time because he is not sure if he will get paid for treating hundreds of people, and on top of that, Lily is still in the house. Guide watches everything from his location, and he is impressed with Xenos' healing skills. However, he knows that healing everyone won't solve anything until they can deal with the golem, and he wants to see how Xenos will try to do it. Soon after that, Xenos has finished treating all the injured people, and he can finally relax. He looks at the golem that is still rampaging through the slums and wonders if it will go home once it gets bored. Carmilla tells him that it is not possible because golems don't stop until they fulfill their order, and she believes that this golem's orders are to destroy the slums or something like that. Zenos facepalms on hearing this, but then Carmilla says that it should be impossible to make a golem in this age. The high-purity magic stones used to make a golem core are found only in the southernmost continent, which used to be Demon Lord's territory, and most of them should have been used up already. Also, the black magic arts have been lost to time, and the materials required to build a golem are very rare to find as well. As she wonders who can have access to all these resources, Zenos tells her that there is no use thinking about it, because they need to destroy the golem first. Carmilla warns him that it will be dangerous, but the girls volunteer to come with him, because they can't let a monster destroy their home like this. Zenos then asks Carmilla how to destroy a golem, and she tells him that he needs to destroy its core, otherwise the golem will keep on regenerating. However, Zenos doesn't want to destroy the core because then he won't be able to sell it. Anyway, he leads the girls to the golem and tells them to hit it with everything they have got. They rush ahead to fight and Zenos boosts their abilities with his buffs. The girls find their strength and speed have greatly increased, and just one hit is enough to crack the golem's leg and make it fall on the ground. However, it instantly repairs the damage and then hits Linga away. Luckily, Zenos is there to cover for her, and he heals her injuries in real time, making her feel like she didn't even take any damage. It is not so easy for Zenos because he has not had actual combat in months, but he starts to get back in his groove as the fight goes on. He tries to stay at a minimum distance from the girls, otherwise his magic won't be effective on them. And then he keeps switching between the defensive and healing spells according to the need of the moment. Meanwhile, the girls keep damaging the golem and Zenos notices that it takes some time to regenerate. He orders the girls to break both its legs, and they do that, making the golem topple over. However, they notice it too late that one girl in the region was not evacuated in time, and the golem is about to fall directly on top of her. Zenos panics because he can't see the girl clearly enough to cast defensive magic on her, and he rushes ahead, hoping to protect her in time. He can't reach her before the golem falls, but surprisingly, the golem itself makes an effort to protect the girl. Zenos is confused by this, but he starts scanning the golem as the girl runs away. He soon finishes scanning, and just then Carmilla comes there. She says that the golem is behaving strangely, and Zenos tells her that the golem is not completely artificial. He says that the golem's core is in the left half of its chest, and it is not just a magic stone but Astan himself. Guide sees all this from the distance and smirks to himself as he sees Zenos figuring out his trick. He only had imperfect magic stones to work with, and the best way to make golem cores out of them was to combine them with a human. However, golems made this way are quite hard to control, but Guide thought that since Astan was an idiot overflowing with negative emotions, it won't be much difficult to control him. He made the redhead believe that the magic stone was necessary for his revenge, and fused him with it to create the golem's core, and now he wants to see if Zenos can kill an old friend to save the slums. However, Zenos plans to settle the fight with Astan personally. He tells the girls to fall back because only he can handle things now, and they obey. Carmilla also leaves because the sun is about to rise and Zenos is left alone with the golem, and he is sure that Astan is somewhere inside it. He says that it seems unbelievable that a selfish jerk like him would save a child, but then he remembers that the reason Astan was obsessed with money was because his sister died of a sickness, and he didn't have the money to save her. Zenos asks him if the girl reminded him of his sister, and thinks that Astan still has some humanity left, but it is too late for him. He creates a blade using mana, and then charges at the golem, slashing off both its arms clean. As the golem roars, Zenos lunges at it again and slashes its chest with full strength, exposing Astan, who is stuck inside it. Zenos tells Astan that this is the end, and then cuts him down without any hesitation. Guide is quite surprised to see this because he didn't expect Zenos to be this merciless, but he also understands that he might want to take revenge for all the bad treatment. He decides to leave because he is disappointed, but then he sees something strange. Zenos is not just cutting Astan, he is also healing him at the same time. He destroys the parts of Astan's body that are fused with the magic stone, and then regenerates them instantly, turning them into normal human body. It is really exhausting, but Zenos keeps doing it, and Guide is dumbfounded on seeing this. He can't believe that Zenos has so much energy and precision left, even after healing hundreds of people. He still can't process that someone as skilled as him can exist, and begins to rethink his strategy. Meanwhile, Xenos tells Astan that it would be better for the world if he dies here, but he can't let that happen because someone has got to pay for the damages to the slums and his fee for healing people all night long. So he will keep Astan alive to get money out of him and his accomplice. The other reason is that Astan has done two huge favors to him in the past. The first one was taking him off the street, and the second one was giving him the gold coin as severance pay, which helped him free Lily, and that decision changed his life. Xenos adds that the final and the most important reason is that he is a healer and he can't let anyone die on his watch. With that, he strikes the magic stone in Astan's heart with full strength, shattering it. Soon, Astan is completely freed from the magic stone, and as he is on his knees, he admits that Xenos is so outstanding that it makes him want to throw up. He saw him backing up the demi-human girls earlier, and now he realizes that he was doing the same thing to their party as well. He falls to the ground, begging Xenos for forgiveness, even though he doesn't deserve it. Xenos tells him to get up, and Astan says that he will not get up till he is forgiven. But Xenos tells him to hurry up because he needs to punch him in the face. Astan is dumbfounded, but then Xenos uses the last bit of his mana to increase the impact of his punch by 10 times. He begins walking backwards, but Xenos smiles creepily, saying that another reason he didn't let him die earlier is because he couldn't punch him in the face then. With that, he punches Astan as hard as he can and sends him flying. Astan comes to his sense a few minutes later and finds Krish standing next to him. He asks her where is Xenos, and she replies that she met him on the way, and he told her all the details. She says that it is a miracle that no one was hurt in this incident, and Astan is going to owe Xenos for the rest of his life. She then proceeds to arrest him for a long list of crimes and adds public indecency to that. Astan realizes only then that he is sitting in his birthday suit. Krish gives him a message from Xenos, who took his sword so that he could sell it to pay for the losses, and Astan realizes that now he truly has nothing left, not even his clothes. However, Xenos has left him a parting gift, and it is a single gold coin, just like his severance pay. Krish says that Xenos never wants to see him again, and Astan begins crying like a child on hearing that. Meanwhile, Xenos drags his feet as he walks home, but he meets the demi-human girls on the way, and they support him even when he tells them that he is fine. Soon, they reach his house and Lily immediately pours a cup of tea for Xenos to welcome him back, because she was sure that he would return home unharmed. A couple days later, Krish visits Xenos to tell him about the investigation of the golem incident. She says that they haven't found any solid evidence, but they believe that the person behind the golem was the one named Guide. Xenos swears that he will find Guide one day and collect all the money he owes him with interest, but Krish says it is going to be hard. Guide left behind no trace, and the building where he met Astan was wiped clean and abandoned before the Knights found it. Zofia says that she also did some digging in the matter, and found that the Guide had only recently joined the underground guild, and he tends to do things alone. Linga has heard similar stories too, and Loev says that it is normal practice in the underground guild to not poke one's nose in other people's businesses. She believes that they can't find much even if they question people at the guild. Krish says that they have placed Guide on the wanted list, and the Knights are hot on his trail, but seeing how he has erased his presence so well, they might not be able to find anything. However, the three girl bosses think that the Guide will come out of hiding soon, and he will be a pain to deal with then. Krish tells them to stop guessing things randomly because it is not how things work, and they call her a hypocrite because she is just guessing as well. Krish says that she has got the necessary experience and information to speculate a theory, which is different than guessing. Xenos tells the girls that it is good they are arguing like civil people, but he tells them to at least face each other when they talk because it is getting uncomfortable to him. Krish says that she is a respected royal knight and can't share a table with 3 gang leaders, and the demi-human girls tell her that they don't want her either. Xenos is in no mood to put up with their nonsense, so he just pushes them out of the clinic because he wants to rest today. He then sits down to relax by reading some books, and Lily approaches him with concern. She says that he has been looking really tired ever since the golem attack, and she thought of something that can make him feel better. She says that the two of them should go to a hot spring together, but just as she is about to say it, Zofia barges in, startling Lily. Zofia says that she has a nice idea for Xenos, saying that since the golem incident is still heavily weighing on his mind, they should head out to a hot spring. Xenos seems to like the idea, but Lily gets mad at this because she is not going to get any credit for this idea anymore. Zofia leaves with that, And just then, Linga comes there, looking for something. She also starts with the same story about the golem attack being tough on everyone, and then suggests that they should go to the hot springs. Xenos tells her that it is a good idea, but before he can tell her that he already made the deal with Zofia, Linga leaves his house, saying that he is coming with her now because he has promised. Lily is even more upset now, and just then Loev also comes there. This time Xenos aggressively asks her if she is also here to invite him to the hot springs, and she starts blushing, asking how did he know that. She says that they must be soulmates to think the same thing, but Xenos tells her that her true soulmates are Linga and Zofia, because they had the same idea. Soon, Krish also drops by and Xenos knows that she wants to go to the hot springs too, and in his frustration, he tells her that it is a nice idea. Lily is really hurt after all this, and as she sulks silently, Xenos wonders why the girls are obsessed with the hot springs. Anyway, he asks Lily what she was saying earlier, and she yells that it was nothing important. Just then, Carmilla also arrives there, teasing Lily that she got beat by all her rivals. She then tells Xenos that she has not been to hot springs in years, so she will join them too. Soon after that, Xenos goes to hot springs to soak in warm water and relieve his body of some exhaustion. He thinks that his original plan of being an underground healer to live a quiet and peaceful life is far from his reach now because things have already gotten out of hand. However, he likes moments like this when he can relax in private, but little does he know that the moment is not going to last too long. The door to the bath suddenly opens and Zofia walks inside. Xenos panics, telling her that it is the men's bath, and she tells him that she put a sign outside that says that the bath is being cleaned so no one will join them. She enters the water, telling Xenos that she wants to be even more aggressive in rizzing him up, but she knows it is not the best idea. She starts telling him how she has been changed after meeting him and keeps moving closer while trying to distract him with the conversation. However, Xenos notices that and Zofia decides to be aggressive after all. As she wrestles with Xenos to get closer to him, Linga also arrives there and she leaps at Xenos, saying that she is feeling really dizzy. However, Zofia is the one to catch her, and the two of them start fighting. Suddenly, Lo pops out of the water, telling Xenos that she was waiting for him here the whole time. Linga and Zofia attack her, and as the three of them are fighting, Xenos turns around because he wants some peace. Just then, Krish barges into the room, yelling at the demi-human girls for being shameless because this is the men's bath. The girls tell her to stop acting like she is not here for Xenos as well, and all four of them start fighting each other. Xenos finally gets pissed enough to send them away, and they go to the women's bath. Coincidentally, the healer named Human is also there because she was in the city for a job. She is surprised to see the girls of different species hanging out together, and then she learns that their group also contains an elf and a wraith. Human tries to exorcise Carmilla the moment she sees her, but Carmilla just passes through the wall and enters the men's bath to harass Xenos instead. Soon after that, all of them gather for dinner, but despite wanting to sit with everyone, Krish loses to her pride and sits on a separate table. Later, Xenos puts Lily to sleep and goes to have some drinks with Carmilla. He still looks tired, so she asks him if the dinner was not enjoyable, and he replies that it was good at first, but then the girls started a drinking competition where the winner would get to sit on his lap. In the end, all of them passed out and Xenos had to take them to their rooms. Carmilla laughs, telling him to enjoy these silly times while they last because he is soon going to be dragged into complicated matters. Xenos tells her to stop jinxing him, and then asks her how she got here in the first place because she is allergic to the sun. Carmilla explains that she can possess things she is attached to, and during the day, she possessed an old staff that Lily carried here. Xenos asks her if the staff belonged to her when she was alive. He wants to know what exactly she was doing when she was alive, but as always, she refuses to talk about her past and pours him some drinks instead. The next morning, everyone is woken up by an explosion in the kitchen, and Human is the first one to respond. She goes to the kitchen where she finds the owner lying on the ground with severe burns on his body because the fire stones exploded. She immediately starts giving him first aid, telling the owner's wife that he will need to be taken to a hospital to get proper treatment, and even then, he might not be able to use his hand again. Just then, Xenos comes there and Human asks his help in carrying him to the nearest hospital where they have some advanced healing circles. Xenos has never heard of things like that before, and he is curious about them. But he says that the man doesn't need to be taken to a hospital for injuries like this. He walks away, saying that his ride is already here, But before going, he heals the man for free because he enjoyed the food he cooked. Yumin is really disappointed, thinking that Zenos abandoned an injured man. But then suddenly, the inn owner gets up, asking what happened to him. He is completely fine, and Yumin loses her mind on realizing that Zenos must be one of the topmost elite healers to treat such a serious injury instantly. So once she returns to the royal hospital, Yumin tells her boss everything about the incident. Her boss says that the country will definitely like to put Zenos on a payroll if he is so skilled, but he thinks that they don't have enough information to find him. He says that since Zenos healed a person and then left without asking for money, he must be a good guy and they can leave him alone. However, as Yumin says that he was wearing a black overcoat, her boss suddenly gets curious and decides to search for Zenos personally. Yumin asks him what made him change his mind, and he replies that he wants to meet another elite healer like him. A couple days later, Zofia's brother comes to Zenos, carrying an unconscious man with him, who turns out to be Yumin's boss. The lizardman tells Zenos that he found the guy unconscious in the slums after coughing a lot of blood, and he immediately brought him here. Zenos lays the man on the table and begins scanning his body for potential diseases. Suddenly, he figures out that the man's lungs are a mess because he has a disease called the red lung. He tells Lily and the lizard guy to stay away because their patient has a disease that is more deadly than Ebola and more contagious than COVID. However, he immediately doubts his diagnosis because the red lung disease was wiped out a few years ago because of a cure. As he is wondering about other options, the man suddenly gets up, telling Zenos that he is really great at diagnosing illnesses. He introduces himself as an elite healer from the royal hospital named Ernardo. Zenos asks him what is he doing here when Yumin comes running to the hospital. She is worried sick about Ernardo, who made himself ill on purpose to find Zenos. Zenos asks him if he really has the red lung disease, and as Ernardo coughs up blood, he explains that he took a medicine that only copies the symptoms of the disease. He then takes an antidote that will help him get better quickly, and Zenos asks where the hell did he get medicines like that. Ernardo tells him that he made the medicines himself when he was trying to find a cure for the red lung disease. Zenos finally realizes that Ernardo is a big shot, and Yumin starts fangirling after her boss, as she explains that he has found the cures to many dangerous diseases, and that has earned him the title of an elite healer. Ernardo just laughs and says that he was curious to see Zenos when he heard about a skilled underground healer with a black overcoat, but he was not the guy he was looking for. Zenos tells him that the overcoat was actually his master's, but he never learned his name. Ernardo's instincts tell him that Zenos is the student of the man he is searching for, and he asks him to work at the royal hospital because they have a rather tricky case at hand. Just then, the three demi-human girls arrive there because Carmilla put up the red flag sensing an emergency. They are ready to beat Ernardo and Yumin into a pulp if they try to take Zenos away, and Ernardo decides to change his approach. He tells Zenos that he will make it an official quest to hire him temporarily, and Zenos doesn't think that it is a bad idea. The girls are not happy about that, but Zenos says that he needs some elite healers on his side, now that he has been exposed, and more importantly, he remembers that the medicine for the red lung disease was distributed for free in the slums in the past, so he wants to repay his debt for that. Moreover, Ernardo seems to know his teacher, and Zenos wants to know more about him, so he agrees to work at the royal hospital with him. Soon after that, Zenos reaches the royal hospital with Ern and Yumin, and he is blown away by the scale of the place. He says that it is too big and bright for his liking and asks if they don't have any dark and shady rooms because that is where he feels most comfortable. Yumin doesn't like his vibe, but Ern tells him that they should go to his office first before discussing anything else. The office turns out to be dark, shady, and poorly managed, which makes Zenos feel at home, and then Ern gets to business. He tells Zenos that he hired him to investigate some missing people. Zenos says that it is not his specialty, but Ern tells him that he just has to go around asking some questions. Since he has been admitted here as a special research student, he is free to attend all sorts of programs with proper recommendations that normal students cannot do. While Zenos understands that it will make gathering intel easy, he is worried that someone will discover his real identity. Ern already has a cover story for cases like that, and he tells Zenos that he just needs to pretend to be a skilled healer who returned from abroad, and since an elite healer is backing him up, no one will doubt him. After that, Zenos heads to the dorms, and he is surprised when Lily welcomes him home. He asks her what the hell is she doing here, and Yumin explains that family members are allowed to live in dorms. Lily proudly declares that she is Zenos' wife, but Human reminds her that officially, she is his little sister. Zenos thanks Human for dealing with the paperwork of bringing Lily here because he was actually worried about her, and she takes her leave with that. Just as they are left alone, Lily starts acting like a wife desperate for her husband's attention, and Zenos asks who the hell taught her all this. The obvious answer is Carmilla, who has also come to live with him and cause some trouble. Zenos warns her that with so many healers around, she is going to be exorcised the moment someone spots her, but Carmilla replies that she likes to live dangerously. The next day, Zenos has breakfast with Human in the cafeteria, where he asks her how can he get a healer license. She tells him that first, he needs to enroll in a prep school to improve his basics, and then get into a registered hospital to study for a few years. After that, if he passes the hospital exam, he can become a licensed healer. Zenos is shocked to hear this, and says that licensed healers are really amazing, and Human is dumbfounded by how unaware he is of his own abilities. She explains that once healers get their license, they can work at the royal hospitals or become adventurers. Some of them start working directly for the military or nobles, and once a healer has enough experience, they can apply for an examination to increase their rank. Zenos gets a headache thinking about all the formalities, and he asks Human to tell him about the missing person he has to find first. She reveals that the missing person is her senior named Afreed, who is an advanced healer and the deputy head of the lab where she works. She keeps praising Afreed, saying he is really kind and smart, and he played an important role in developing some crucial medicines alongside Ern. Zenos asks if she has any leads, and before Human tell him anything, a group of healers enter the hall, led by a dignified old man. Zenos asks her about the man, and she informs him that he is Professor Goldrin, the vice director of the hospital and a Class 7 advanced healer. Zenos is curious about what Class 7 means, and Human explains that the beginner, intermediate and advanced healers are divided into 7 classes. A Class 7 advanced healer is the highest position one can normally get, and after that, they get promoted to elite healers. Zenos is impressed, and Human tells him that since the hospital director is too old to work regularly, Goldrin has the most authority here. However, things have changed a lot ever since he took charge, and only the rich clients are getting proper treatment now. She adds that Goldrin is more interested in boosting his political career rather than working on his healing skills. She says that some rumors suggest that he got to Class 7 because he has good connections with major nobles, and Zenos decides to stay far away from him. However, Human tells him that it is not possible because Goldrin is one of the suspects in the case of Afreed. He had been gathering talented healers under him to further strengthen his position, and he had asked Ern to lend Afreed to him for some time. Since Goldrin had funded his research, Ern had to repay the favor, and even Afreed wanted to diversify his resume. However, 1 month after going to work with Goldrin, Afreed disappeared, and Goldrin says that he doesn't know anything about it at all. Zenos understands that, but he wants to know how he can get close to Goldrin. Human tells him that as he keeps on performing brilliantly in different fields, Goldrin will approach him first. Zenos doesn't think that is possible because he still underrated himself, but before Human can clear his confusions, a red-headed jerk named Crescent comes there and starts talking shit to her for no reason. As he leaves, Zenos asks what was the jerk's deal, and Human says that he used to be her classmate, but after he got scouted by Goldrin's group, he has become too arrogant. Anyway, Zenos decides to go to his classes, and on the way, he thinks about how his master taught him and one of his friends to become skilled healers who don't just fix injuries, but heal the world as a whole. He snaps out of his nostalgia as the lesson begins, and the professor starts teaching the students about undead monsters. Zenos knows a fair bit about the topic already because of his adventuring days, but he is impressed by the systematic method used at the hospital. After that, the professor begins talking about wraiths, who are the highest-level undead monsters. He says that not much is known about them because they are rare, and on top of that, most parties who challenge them have been wiped out. He explains that if one comes across a wraith, they should run away, and if the wraith can speak, it is even more dangerous. That comes as a shock to Zenos because his housemate is a wraith, and he decides not to tell anyone about her to avoid any chaos. The professor then asks if anyone has any experience fighting undead monsters, and the redhead Crescent gets up to boast that he has defeated 30 ghosts in his career. He then turns to Zenos and asks if he has ever fought ghosts, and Zenos decides to get some attention without overdoing it. Though he has defeated about 50 ghosts at once, he tries to match Crescent's story and says that he can handle about 30 of them at once. Everyone is shocked to hear that, and the professor asks him to elaborate. Zenos says that if they go to the underground dungeon, they will find more ghosts than mosquitoes, and the quickest way to deal with them is to cast a healing spell on all of them. This stuns the professor even more because even gold-rank adventuring parties are afraid to go to the dungeon, but Zenos acts like it is no big deal. However, Crescent is really jealous of him, and he follows Zenos to the next lecture to level the score with him. The lecture is about healing circles, but Zenos finds it pointless because he can heal his patients before he can draw a circle. At the end of the lecture, the professor calls for volunteers and Crescent stands up to show off. Once he has impressed the professor, he drags Zenos up front again. Zenos only knows one magic circle that his teacher taught him, and he draws it on the board. Crescent laughs because he has never seen the circle before, but the professor goes crazy as he realizes that it is not a healing circle, but a regeneration circle. Zenos tells him that it is a bit weird because it randomly grows a missing organ back. The professor is even more astonished and says that no human can activate this magic circle because it requires too much mana, but Zenos shows him how it is done. The professor goes crazy on seeing this and tries recruiting Zenos to his lab, and while he tries to make excuses, Crescent becomes even more jealous. Soon, the rumors about Zenos reach Goldrin as well, but he doesn't take him seriously because he is just a special research student. Just then, one of his subordinates tells him about some ghosts that have been spotted at the local graveyard. Goldrin orders him to send a team of healers to deal with them, and then tells them to include Zenos in the team as well to see if he can really fight 30 ghosts at once. Soon, a team of healers led by Crescent goes to the graveyard, but half of them piss themselves on seeing the ghosts. They chant full spells and exorcise the ghosts one by one, but Zenos thinks they are being really inefficient. Human tells him that of course he will think that, and in the meantime, all the healers give up. They gather in one spot and the ghosts gather around them, but that was what Zenos wanted, and he uses the high heal spell to defeat all of them at once. Everyone is shocked by this, but Crescent quickly gobbles up credit like he gobbles Goldrin's cream. He tells everyone that he defeated the ghosts, and everyone believes him, even when Human tries to tell them that Zenos defeated the ghosts. Zenos, on the other hand, couldn't care less, and even when Crescent screams in his face that he will never accept him, he doesn't give it kicked. Crescent gets frustrated and starts to leave, but Zenos tells him that they are not done with the monsters yet. Just as he says this, a huge explosion shakes the ground, and a giant zombie king comes out of it. The healers are scared of it, but they immediately turn to Crescent and tell him that they have full faith that he can defeat it. Crescent can't tell them that he lied earlier, and he turns to Human for help, but she just scoffs at him and tells him to show how skilled the members of the Goldrin faction are by fighting the monster alone. Crescent then turns to Zenos, who sincerely thinks that he can handle the monster alone, so he also says that he won't interfere. Left with no choice, Crescent runs towards the zombie, trembling with fear. He hits it with a high heal spell, but that only creates a small wound on the zombie's body that heals instantly. Crescent panics because his strongest spell was useless, and then the zombie king starts attacking him. He does his best to dodge the attacks, and that confuses Zenos. He asks Human why Crescent is not fighting back, and she tells him that he was lying earlier when he said he could handle it. She asks Zenos not to help him anytime soon because he deserves to suffer for his nasty attitude, but he realizes that Human likes Crescent, but she is a tsundere Pro Max who can't admit her feelings. Just then, Crescent gets hit by the zombie king, who grabs him tightly, crushing all his bones. As he is about to get eaten, Crescent begs for help, and Zenos responds by using a super high-level skill called Mega Heal that fills the air with dozens of brightly colored healing orbs that instantly vaporize the giant monster. After that, Crescent and Human start quarreling with each other again, but Zenos thinks that undead monsters are drawn to stronger undead monsters. While normal people might think that the ghosts were gathered at the graveyard because of the zombie king, he realizes that the zombie king itself appeared here because the strongest undead monster, Carmilla, is at the hospital right now. Soon, Zenos returns to his dorm room where he tells Carmilla about the theory that undead monsters are drawn towards stronger undeads. She acts proud on hearing this and says this must be because her aura and Riz points are out of this world and the monsters can't stop coming towards her even after they die. She then gets serious and asks Zenos if he plans to send her away, and he replies that given how her presence can cause problems everywhere, it will be better for him to keep her by his side. While Lily begins imagining Zenos saying the same line to her, Carmilla gets too stunned because no one has ever asked her to stay by their side ever since she became a wraith. The next day, Crescent goes to deliver his report to his senior, who has heard stories from the students about how Crescent saved everyone during the exorcism mission. The senior tells Crescent that he did good, but since he saved everyone, it means that Xenos didn't do anything, and he is not worthy of joining Professor Goldrin's faction. The senior tells Crescent to keep an eye on Xenos just in case, but the ginger douchebag seems to have a bit of a conscience after all. He nervously comes clean with the senior, admitting that it was Xenos who defeated the horde of ghosts and the giant zombie king. With that, he leaves the office, cursing himself for letting go of such a wonderful chance to get some attention of Big Daddy Goldrin. But he is also glad that he repaid Xenos for saving his life. Soon after that, Ern tells Xenos that the Goldrin lab is looking for him, which means that his heroic feats of exorcising the zombie king were enough to get him in. Xenos is surprised by this because he was sure that Crescent was going to hog all the credit himself, but Ern tells him none of that matters now. He says that even though he has caught the attention of Goldrin Lab, this is just the beginning, and until he has an interview with Goldrin, he can't call it a success. Xenos already feels exhausted on hearing that, but Ern tells him that Goldrin is the most important and most busy person in the Royal Hospital right now, and he doesn't make time for just anyone. Xenos says that he hates people who think they are too important, but Ern tells him that authority and hierarchy is really important for Goldrin. Xenos thinks that Ern should be Goldrin's superior in that case because he is an elite healer, but he replies that it is not always the case. For starters, he got the title of an elite healer by developing medicines, which is not the same as being a good healer, and secondly, Goldrin has a huge political influence. Xenos doesn't really want to think too much about all this stuff, so he decides to visit the Goldrin lab first. Turns out, Goldrin himself is present at the interview, and he starts off by asking Xenos what he can do. Xenos replies that he can only heal, and Goldrin is not satisfied with his answer. He says that healers have a special status in this country, and they have had the greatest influence on its history. That is news for Xenos, and then Goldrin declares that he soon plans to join the ruling class so that healers can get the profit they deserve. He says that not everyone is equal, and those who have money should be treated better than those who don't. Goldrin then asks Xenos to draw the healing circle he drew in the class so that he can verify his skills. He says that if he can prove his skills right now, he will welcome him in his faction and make sure that he achieves heights that justify his potential. Xenos immediately draws the healing circle on a piece of paper, and Goldrin is astonished on seeing it, even though he hides his expressions. He begins talking about how there are different schools of drawing healing circles, but they need to be true to the basics in order for him to accept them. He studies the circle Xenos made, calling it unusual and new, but he finds that it respects the basics. For that reason, he decides to recruit him in his lab, and as soon as the professor walks out of the room, Xenos heaves a sigh of relief. The next day, Goldrin begins his power march through the Royal Hospital with his followers behind him, and Xenos can't even understand what he is supposed to do. Crescent spots him and tells him to get in line and look confident as everyone else. Xenos doesn't even remember his name, but Crescent tells him to be grateful that he recommended his name to join the lab. Xenos asks him why did he even do that, and Crescent reveals that he will use him to climb up the ranks of the Goldrin faction, even though he is at the lowest level right now. Anyway, Xenos learns that Goldrin does routine rounds around the hospital with his followers in tow to farm aura points, and he only visits the rich patients to save his time. Xenos finds that quite inefficient, but he is also curious about how Goldrin works, so he decides to cut the line and take a closer look. He rushes towards the room and finds Goldrin examining a man with a twisted ankle. He immediately calls forward 3 of his followers and draws magic from them to heal the man, and Xenos is surprised because he has never seen anything like that before. He runs back to the end of the line where Crescent lashes out at him for doing stupid things on his first day. Xenos asks him what was the weird technique the professor used, and Crescent calls him an idiot sandwich for not knowing even that. He explains that the health transfer method is Goldrin's speciality, in which he transfers the life force of a healthy person to an injured person to make them feel better. This way, healers can treat serious injuries, even if they are not all that powerful, but healing serious injuries requires more donors to give their life force so that they don't face any negative effects besides a bit of exhaustion. Xenos is really impressed by this, and says that this must be why Goldrin needs so many followers, but Crescent tells him that there is another reason. The old director of the hospital is going to retire soon, and then an election will be held to fill his position. Goldrin already has enough influence to win the election, but he still wants to gather more followers to show off his power to everyone. Xenos thanks him for the info, and then asks if he knows anything about the guy called AniForge. Crescent gets a little pissed on hearing that name because Goldrin had high hopes from him, but he vanished without a trace. Xenos asks for details and Crescent can only tell him that he was invited to a dinner in which Goldrin called all his favorites, and then he suddenly disappeared. Later that day, Xenos gives the entire information to Ern and thinks that his job is done, but Ern tells him that it is just beginning. He asks Xenos to become one of Goldrin's favorites so he can get invited to the next dinner, and that way, he might find more proof. Xenos says that he just wants to go home, but he decides to finish the job so that he can learn about his master. Ern is glad to hear that, and as he gets up, he intentionally drops some coins on the floor. He asks Xenos if he was in a hurry to go to some important event and didn't have time to pick all the coins, which coin would he pick up first? He immediately comes to the point and asks Xenos if he thinks that the lives of different people have different values just like the coins. Before the conversation can go ahead, Human comes there to fetch Ern for a meeting, and he tells Xenos to think about his answer carefully. The next day, Xenos is again paired up with Crescent, who tells him that their job for today is to watch after Goldrin's dog. Xenos asks him if this is all he does at the lab, and as it turns out, Crescent is really just the babysitter for the pup. However, he keeps dreaming about climbing up the ranks and becoming someone close to Goldrin so that he can enjoy a luxurious lifestyle. Xenos is a bit confused by that because for him being a healer is all about treating people, and Crescent says that it should be like that ideally, but the real world is different. He admits that once he also used to be full of hope and thought that he would save a bunch of people in the future, but he soon learned that even healing magic has its limits. He says that having money and power is better than healing abilities, when suddenly, a drunkard comes there, asking him if he is walking Goldrin's dog again today. Crescent affirms as he greets the man named Bonds, who says that he really hates the smug-looking dog, and then stumbles back to his hideout. Xenos asks Crescent about the drunkard and learns that he is the first secretary of Goldrin. He doesn't even do much work, but since he is an old friend, Goldrin doesn't fire or demote him. Just then, Bonds throws a bottle at Crescent, telling him to catch it. Crescent can't react in time and the bottle hits the ground, shattering near the dog, who gets startled and runs away. Crescent and Xenos chase after it, but they are too late as it reaches the main street and gets run over by a carriage. Crescent immediately rushes to the dog and casts high heal on it, but he is incredibly worried because the injury will leave a scar and Goldrin will definitely punish him for that. Xenos takes pity on Crescent and casts a basic healing magic on the pup, erasing all the scars on its body. Crescent freaks out because doing something like that requires a hell of skill, but Xenos tells him that it was just regular healing magic. He then picks up the dog, saying that it will be best to let it rest for the day, and Crescent runs after him, telling him to stop stealing his job. Later, Human asks Xenos out on a walk, and he quickly realizes that she has something to say to him. He asks her to stop wasting time and speak what she wants to, and Human immediately apologizes to him. She says that if she was more skilled, she would have been enough to attract Goldrin's attention, and Xenos wouldn't have been dragged into this. She feels guilty for that, but Xenos tells her that he is good because he is going to receive payment from Ern. More than that, he is glad that because of this incident, he got the chance to enter a royal hospital, and soon, he will learn more about his teacher. Speaking of that, Human asks Xenos about his teacher, and he can't say what kind of person he was. However, he proudly says that he owes his life to his teacher who taught him more than just healing magic. Human says that Ern is the same for her as he mentored her closely ever since she decided to become a healer. She accidentally reveals too many personal details about Ern, like how his girlfriend ran away because he was too obsessed with his research, and Xenos asks her how does she know all that. Human suddenly reveals that Ern is actually her mother's younger brother and her uncle, but she didn't get blessed with talent like him. Xenos asks her what is she researching, and Human says that she is working on the storage for medicines, which is quite boring. Xenos agrees with her, but tells her that his teacher used to say that most important things in life are often boring. They begin chatting with each other freely after that, when suddenly, Carmilla speaks up from behind, saying that Xenos found another potential wife. Human gets confused by the voice that came out of nowhere, but Xenos tells her to not mind it because it is nothing. Soon, they head back to the dorms when Crescent comes running to them. He kneels before Xenos, begging for help because he is in a real pinch, and while Xenos is already tired of him, Carmilla tells him that it might turn into something interesting. The reasons that led Crescent to beg Xenos for help started a couple hours earlier, when Goldrin returned from a meeting with a powerful noble who had always supported him. The noble asked him to take a look at his daughter who had developed a rash on her face, and it had been growing bigger every day. Goldrin immediately realized that it was a disease called odd face, and the noble begged him to treat her daughter. Goldrin knew that the disease was not life-threatening, but to remove the scar on the girl's face, he would need to cut it off completely and then heal it. There was a chance of a permanent scar being left behind on the girl's face as a result, but Goldrin was confident that with enough students to donate their life force to him, he could patch it up like it had never been damaged. However, the problem is that the girl refused to let people see her scarred face, and Goldrin was tense because he couldn't help her without bringing a lot of people along. As he wondered what should he do, he decided to take a break and spend some quality time with his puppy, because that always helps him relax. Just as he left his office, he ran into his drunk assistant, who sneered at him, telling him that his cute little pup was run over by a carriage. Goldrin got absolutely livid on hearing this, but the drunkard told him that the babysitters he assigned healed the dogs, so she was fine. Goldrin immediately rushed to his room after confirming with more trustworthy people that his pet really got into an accident. But when he saw her completely fine without even a scratch on her body, he was astonished. He thought that the person who healed his dog without leaving a wound on her could do the same to the noble's daughter as well, and that is how Crescent's name got involved in the matter. Back to the present, Xenos decides to listen to his request before making a decision, and they go to his room where Crescent reveals the details. He tells Xenos that Goldrin has asked him to heal the face of the daughter of one of the 7 big nobles, and if he screws this up, he will never be successful. Xenos tells him to just cut out the deformed tissue on the girl's face and then heal it, but Crescent sighs as he tells him that normal people can't do that. He is too flustered, but then Human asks him why did Goldrin ask someone like him to take on such a high-profile case. He tries to act confident by saying that Goldrin has finally noticed him, but Human calls it cap. Crescent starts crying as he comes clean and says that when Goldrin inquired about the dog's babysitter, his name came up. Human asks him why did he have to be a credit hog if he doesn't have the skills to back himself, and Crescent replies that he already made a mistake during the Zombie King incident. He says that since he admitted to being useless once, he was sure that if the secretary found out that he was useless even this time, he would be dropped from the group. He begs Xenos for help when Lily comes there with tea. Human introduces her as Xenos' sister, but seeing how clingy she is acting, Crescent wonders if they are Sweet Home Alabama siblings. Anyway, he tries to be on good terms with Lily, so Xenos is inclined to help him, but she doesn't want to do anything with a loser like him. The next day, the noble suddenly summons Goldrin as an emergency arises, and the professor takes Crescent and Xenos along with him. The noble explains that his daughter Charlotte has been refusing surgery because she doesn't want any type of blemish on her face. She has locked herself in her room and is refusing to let anyone see her, and the noble is really worried about her. He tells Goldrin that he is the only person he can trust to convince her that she will be fine, and Goldrin nervously accepts the request. The noble leads the healers to his daughter's room, where he asks her to let Goldrin take a look at her condition. Goldrin also asks Char to trust him with the treatment, but she tells him that she is not letting anyone bring a blade to her face. She turns out to be a paranoid narcissist who thinks that a girl from a rival noble family set this whole thing up because she was jealous of her beauty, and now everyone is here to damage her face. Well, Crescent decides to match her Delulu levels and tells Xenos that he will convince Char for surgery, and once she is healed, she will fall in love with him, and he will marry into nobility. Xenos tells him to go ahead, and Crescent asks Goldrin's permission to talk to the girl. However, Char tells him that she is not so desperate that she will talk with a mere assistant, and tells him to get lost. With no other choice, Goldrin signals Xenos to give it a try, and he sighs before he goes to the door. He is completely casual with Char and tells her that it is fine if she doesn't want a surgery because anyone would be afraid to have their face cut for any reason. He tells her that the growth on her face won't cause her any health problems, so she doesn't have to remove it if she doesn't want to. He then starts grossing her out, saying that the growth might take the form of an old human face, and some people get so attached to theirs that they give it a human name. Xenos says his role is done with that, and just as he turns around, Char opens the door because she is scared of leaving the growth untreated now. She lets everyone in and asks if it is true that the growth on her face will soon start to look like an old lady's face, and Crescent eagerly tells her that it is true. However, Char asks him to shut up because she can't hear his ugly voice without bleeding out of her ears. Goldrin steps up for damage control and confirms what Xenos told Char, and she asks him what can she do to prevent that. He tells her that the only way to treat odd face is surgery, but Char starts screaming, saying that she doesn't want surgery and she doesn't want to become ugly either. Everyone tries to convince her that this is the only choice, but Char asks them if they can guarantee that there will be no scars from the injury because she will agree to the surgery only if someone can bet their life on it. On getting no response, she storms out of the room and Goldrin again signals Xenos to talk to her because he seems to be good at handling spoiled brats like her. Xenos follows her to the balcony where he finds Char staring at her bird collection. She has lost all her sass and became depressed now, but Xenos doesn't pay much attention to her because he finds an injured bird. He decides to take a look at it, and Char tells him that she found it in the garden yesterday. She says that the bird will never be able to fly again, and just like it, she will never be able to have a social life. Xenos asks her if she wants to get better and Char yells at him to leave her alone. However, Xenos tells her that if she wants to get better, she is a patient, and he will help any patient without worrying about their social status. With that, he lets the bird he treated fly away, and Char is stunned. As the bird lands on her hand, Xenos asks her again if she wants to get better and live her life properly, and she agrees to undergo surgery. Soon after that, Char is knocked out in a makeshift operation room, and as soon as the noble leaves, Goldrin tells Crescent and Xenos that if this operation fails because of them, they will regret it for their entire life. Crescent shakes as he says he will try his best, and then Xenos asks him to leave the surgery to him. Crescent asks him if he has done this before, and Xenos replies that he treated Odd Face once when he was a child. Crescent has no clue about what he means, but he trusts Xenos. Just then, Goldrin tells them to hurry up and asks Crescent to start the surgery, still thinking that he healed his dog. Anyway, Crescent picks up a surgical knife and Xenos is surprised to see that other healers use tools and not mana blades to do surgeries. He asks Crescent to stop shaking like a bitch because that will increase the chance of an injury. He replies that the surgery is rated A+ in difficulty and then tries to calm himself down, recalling what the textbook says about the roots of the odd face tissue. However, Xenos does a quick scan before that, telling Crescent that the location of the roots can vary and he shouldn't go with bookish knowledge. He tells him the exact location of the roots and Crescent can't believe that he can find out all that without even touching the patient. Just then, the impatient Goldrin tells them to start working and Xenos tells Crescent to follow his instructions. Thanks to his precise instructions, Crescent is able to remove the roots from Char's face, and even Goldrin is impressed. However, as Crescent is about to remove the last bit of the disease from Char's face, he notices that the roots are tangled with nerves, and he needs to cut the nerves off to remove them. Both he and Goldrin freak out at this because repairing damaged nerves is incredibly hard, and there are high chances that Char's face will be deformed if they cut her nerves. They debate if they should patch her up now and take her to the hospital for a second surgery, but Goldrin decides that leaving any roots of odd face disease in the girl's face will cause bigger problems. He orders Crescent to cut the nerves to remove the roots, because that will minimize the damage compared to leaving the roots intact. He suddenly takes a knife and cuts Char's nerves, and then immediately starts yelling at Crescent, blaming him for cutting the nerves. The noble comes to the door to ask if everything is fine, and Goldrin tells him that his stupid dog walker ignored his instructions and cut the nerves on the girl's face. He says that they need to take Char to the hospital immediately to try and fix the damage, but she will never look the same again. Crescent panics as he realizes that he is being used as a scapegoat, and the noble is nervous too. However, Xenos steps in just then, telling everyone that there is no need to worry because they just need to reattach the cut nerve. He says that they don't even need to go to the hospital for that because it is a small task, and Goldrin is taken aback on hearing this. Xenos, however, pays him no mind and quickly goes over to Char, creating a mana blade to cut out the remaining roots of the disease from her face, and then patching her up within a second. Both Goldrin and Crescent are dumbfounded to watch him, but Xenos is done before they can even ask any questions. A few hours later, Char wakes up and starts crying as she sees that her face has returned to normal. Her dad credits Goldrin for the surgery's success, but Char slightly remembers Xenos' operation on her, and she gets really interested in him. The next day, Xenos helps Human move some crates of experimental medicines that Ern is working on. Ern also arrives at the storeroom just then and begins asking Xenos about the surgery of the noble girl. He replies that it went well, and Ern is confident that it will make Goldrin take notice of him. At that very moment, Crescent comes running and tells Xenos that Goldrin has invited both of them to his dinner party this evening, and Ern congratulates Xenos, telling him that he is one step closer to completing his mission now. If you liked this video, please consider subscribing and watch the video on your screen next.